evening. I'm Dr. Oyster, the co-host of A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph, episode number 6 with Raul Rivas. And this is my co-host, Dorothy.
Hello. Welcome to the show. I'm excited.
Good news?
Well, there's always good news going on, but I can't disclose anything just yet.
You're like the biggest tease ever.
I am. Just keep tuned, guys, because there's some big stuff going on. I just got to put all the players in place, and then we'll be like, boom, there it is. But I'm really excited. I didn't even meet this guy until like 5 minutes ago, but we are really super excited to have Raul on the show. So welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you grew up in Orlando. You went to college in Rhode Island. I don't know. That sounds like a fairy tale right there.
Yeah.
Then you went into the Army Reserves,
right.
A Desert Storm veteran,
yes,
and then you joined the Orlando PD back in 1992. So
why'd you have to smirk when you say the year? That hurts a little bit. Go ahead, Doc.
Look, I'm going to say this at the same time. So it's
I was just like, what? Was I in college or high school?
Sit down.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Not
Gotcha.
Sorry, not sorry. You know, I gotta get my digs in when I can.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my heroes, badges, and warriors are always on my ass about something. So you know, I gotta get some of the dig in when I can.
No worries.
So welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Wait, is that a Steelers shirt?
It is.
Oh my God, I'm in love with this guy already.
You were before?
Yeah, but
you mentioned at 650. It's like automatic.
I've been a Steelers fan since I was like 7 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now there's a reason why we got along so well in the green room.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm telling you. All right. Well, enough about football because tonight is the draft. It starts in an hour here, so I know we want to.
Yes.
Allow people to get to the draft. So with that though, sir, tell us a little bit about, your childhood, a little bit about growing up.
Yeah. So I was born in New York, in Manhattan, like a bunch of people, of course. And, my family moved down to Florida, into Orlando, Florida, right when I was 9 years old. So, I'm a Floridian. I've been here ever since. I cannot do the cold anymore. I will, if it gets below 70, I lock up like a lizard. So, yeah.
I'm from Michigan, so I get it.
Right, right.
So out down here, and you're just done.
Right. So I grew up down here in Orlando. Went to grade school, graduated from here, and ended up going to Rhode Island and going to college up there. And in the middle there, kind of. I'm going to go ahead and I realized how cold it was in Rhode Island. I reminded myself because I kind of forgot, I didn't know. So I forgot that I don't like that, and I forgot to ask you guys. I may curse. I'm going to try not to. Is that going to be okay?
No, do you?
Okay. I'll try not to. But anyway, I realized that wasn't for me, so I realized that I need to kind of get my plan going to get back to Florida, So my plan was I was going to transfer to UCF and I was going to go into Army Reserve to help pay for some of that, right? So I went to the Army Reserve. I was going to take a break between my sophomore and junior year. At the same time that's happening, Desert Storm breaks off.
Well,
So if you're enrolled in school, you're okay. But if you're not enrolled in school, you get called up. And so I was not enrolled in school. So
thank you for letting the audience know that too. Now
that's exactly how it happens. So I get called up, I get activated from my reserve unit. We go to Desert Storm. I was there for 9 months. 100-hour war. So, so that was done quick, a bunch of air raids. And that was, 19-year-old kid out there kind of, looking at the Scud missiles coming at us, and putting all, and of course, the whole thing was a chemical warfare thing. So, having to don the mask and the suits and kind of sit there and you're hearing the air raid. That was just a whole different monster. But then when that was done, as a 19-year-old kid, I'm like, okay, send me home. War's done. It's over. Get me home. And that was just not happening. So we ended up kind of being the people that counted troops coming back home, because the troops had gotten there so quick it wasn't accurate. So we kind of accurately documented who was there as they were going back home.
Yeah, because that stuff counts on your DD-214. Boy, you want that on the
everything between DD-214, your pay, your hazard pay, your credit, all that stuff's a big deal, right? So,
right.
And I can elaborate a lot on that, but that's basically what we were doing. So, while I was out there, kind of, big aha moments for me. I'm kind of, with Scud missiles coming, I'm contemplating the meaning of life, and trying to figure out where I'm going, what I'm going to be doing. I'm turning 20 years old out there, because we went out there just before Thanksgiving. I turned 20 years old while we were out there, and I'm kind of trying to figure it out, and in the midst of the 9 months, the police thing kind of came up. I'm like, that sounds kind of cool, Nobody mentioned the big red truck. I probably would have been, but I wouldn't have passed that test. So
what do you mean 145 degrees? What?
Right. So, the police thing sounded pretty cool. So I get back to, finally get back to Orlando. Just turning 21, I go back to work, just kind of getting a job, and I'm like, still want to do school right now. I'll get back to that. I start putting applications in as soon as I turn 21, and to my surprise, Orlando PD picks me up.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, 92. So I'm on the street in field training program. I turned 22 while I'm on the street. So I'm a young dude. They gave a badge and a gun to this 22-year-old kid. So I'm out there doing my thing, but I've always been, a pretty hard worker, team oriented, and just, I put my nose down and went to work, and, got noticed pretty quick, and I was able to move around the department. We're a good sized department. So we've got a little bit of everything that you would see in a bigger size department. So I was fortunate to move around from, bike unit to gang unit to undercover, robbery detective, FBI task force, U.S. Marshals task force, ATF task force, SWAT guy for 18 years. So I've been able to move around a little bit in the police department. And that's kind of, anyway, I went past the childhood, but that's kind of how that all happened. So I'm sorry.
Right. You said you and Chief go way back. Did you meet him when you worked at Orange?
So when I met Chief, our first interaction would have been when I was undercover.
Okay.
So
if you missed the Chief's episode, please go back and watch that. But
yeah, Chief Broadway was your last guest, and just absolutely amazing man, amazing father, amazing chief. But in my case, and with my interaction, just a amazing police officer. Just one of them guys. And he's, his resume is second to none. So I'm sure he talked about that. So our first interaction was when we were on task forces, and they were working together. That's when I first met Chief. So in my undercover role, and I think he was with the FDLE at the time. Don't quote me on that, but I think he might have been with FDLE at the time when I first crossed paths with him. And then we just kind of, throughout the career, just kind of kept crossing paths. So that's how I know Chuck.
We're talking about a decade ago. I think you're right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. I'm thinking about the Chief. I'm sorry. But yeah, it was more than a decade ago. But anyway, back then, and after, again, once we met, we kind of kept meeting at different places, and and that's how I knew of him and got to work with him. So
yeah, I think he said it came down from Florida like what, '02 or something? So it may have been long.
Right. So yeah, so that 20 years ago, because
Yeah.
I think
I
you went straight.
forget, like 90, 93, 94, when you and I
Right.
went into the service, it's like, oh, that was only 20 years ago, right?
No.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, hey, I'm a psychologist, not a mathematician. I'm just saying.
who you telling? I'll tell you, I'm the same way. Trust me. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I came to be in police work. I will tell you that, I was blessed.
SWAT's fancy.
It
SWAT is
is.
very lights and, oh God, you call SWAT, it's all over. What does
Right.
that mean?
People think SWAT is fancy, and we
do.
don't.
A whole TV show.
Yeah, and that's never watched one episode. I can't do it. People think we are fancy, and we don't do a lot to kind of mess with that image, right? I mean, it's fine to have that image. I think the what people don't see is that we do a lot of work. We do a lot of training. We do a lot to get ready for those 30 seconds that are life and death, right? So
Right.
SWAT's but because of that training, because of that closeness, because there's a bond that forms amongst us that it's
But it's considered elite, like the best of the best, like Green Beret, Army Rangers, Marshall.
So it's like the SEAL,
right?
We try to do as best we can. So that's.
I love the humility, dude. Just tell them. It's okay. You can tell
wow.
us. It's just us.
We train as hard as we can to be ready, and we try to be there for the cops when they call. You hear the thing about when civilian needs help, they call the police, and when the police need help, they call SWAT. I mean, that's somewhat true, and we try to make sure that we are that type of force when we come to a scene. So
in other words, he is the badass. He just doesn't want to admit that he's the
Correct.
badass.
Correct.
I'll say it for you, sir.
I will tell you. I'm sorry.
Most people are Pop-Tarts. They pop into SWAT, they pop out. Like, you were there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not easy to do.
18 years. Yeah, we I'll say two things. First thing is that we always say it's easier to get on than to stay on. Yes. Right. So to get on, there's a process. We have a pretty extensive process that we do in Orlando that we think's pretty hard, but once you get on, it gets harder. Yes. We put a lot on you, so it's easier to get on than it is to stay on. And it's reference to the badasses, Dorothy, you were saying, I will admit this. I had a bunch of badasses around me. Oh, yeah. That I'll admit.
The teams are amazing, but 18 years is a significant. You don't hear that very often. And you don't.
You don't. There's not a lot of guys doing a lot of time like that because it's not alone. And I'm blessed with. I have been blessed, and I'm still blessed with an amazing family and support system that allowed me to continue doing that.
Right.
Without that, I just don't think it wouldn't have been for me for as long. Right. So, and let me also give kudos to my SWAT team commanders, and that they were extremely supportive of those times that were challenging for me. Mm-hmm. The birth of my son, and he had some health issues, and I was able to go to my commander and say, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but this shit you can go kick rocks, and that was they were like, you go home
and take care of your family.
We'll be here, so that was just a weight off my shoulders, just to be able to not worry about that and put the phone down and not have to worry about, but just focus on family and my son. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I want to say that is not just my family support, but the SWAT leadership support was a big deal for me.
Well, it almost seems like it's a family within a family.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's one thing I get, whether it be police officers or other first responders or other people in uniform. It's like they're a family unit within a family unit. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why a big giant family?
we try to be. I'll I can name a bunch of times that there was examples where that became evident within the SWAT team, more especially again because the bond is just so strong within us. But the big one, and this is a huge one, and I'm skip forward a little bit to Pulse here, but after Pulse happened, one of the there's a SWAT commander, the SWAT commander at the time, Mark Canty. I'll follow that man to hell and back twice. And I'll give my life for whatever that man says. So,
well, if you still have his phone number, we'll interview him.
Yes, ma'am. I do. He is the undersheriff for the Orange County Sheriff's Office right now.
Nice.
For the then chief, John Mina, who is now the sheriff, he was the chief of police when Pulse happened. So he ran for the sheriff's office. And because Mark was just respected the way he is, he brought Mark with him to be the undersheriff. So after Pulse happened, Captain Canty basically did a barbecue for us, invited every past member and their families, of course, all the present members and their families, paid for it out of his pocket, took all the present guys over to the corner. He said his 5-minute spiel about being proud of us and knowing what just happened. Then he ordered us, no shop talk, just go check on one another, go be with one another. And it was an order. If he heard us talking about shop, he was going to, it'd be some ass, pay. So, but he wanted us to check on the wives, check on the significant other, check on the kids, check on what are you doing for vacation, what, that kind of thing. And it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I didn't know then, but afterwards I'm like, wow, that was huge. Didn't know I needed that, so yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's pretty
cool.
cool.
I love that.
Yeah. And not everybody would be, not every commander would have that kind of, forethought to kind of think of, my guys need a day. I mean, because there's so much more that went into that. He got Orange County, our sister agency, to take our calls for 24 hours when it came to SWAT, so we could put our phones down.
Wow.
You know what kind of pull that takes?
All of it.
Yeah, I mean, he's pulling, he's calling in his chips, isn't he? I mean,
that's chief of chief level.
Yeah, that he's calling the markers in. We need a favor here, and to told us we can go home and get sleep. Don't worry about it. We got you 24 hours. That was huge. Didn't know at the moment, but a couple weeks later, we're like, wow, this is what he did. Big deal
That's
for
amazing.
us. So, anyway, that's back to the family thing. I'm sorry.
But our listeners, because Dorothy's in Canada, which is a whole other country. They may or may not know. Well, I got to tell people that same continent, different country. Anyway, so they may not know what Pulse is. So can you kind of explain what it was, what happened, why it was such a big deal?
Yeah. So June 12th, 2016, right at about 2, I get the time wrong all the time, but 2 a.m, just after 2 a.m, a lone gunman went into Pulse nightclub. It's a nightclub just to the south of downtown proper, where the high rise is at. So it's about a mile south of that, right in the middle of the main drag that goes in the middle of the city, Orange Avenue. So it's about a mile south of downtown on Orange Avenue. This lone gunman goes into the club, and he begins shooting, and he shot and killed 49 people in the club. Fast forward, the police department responded. It went from an active shooter to a barricaded gunman. He actually ended up being in the bathrooms. He barricaded himself in the bathrooms with hostages. SWAT team is there. And 3 hours later, he came out. There was a shootout. We killed him. I was one of the few guys that were in the back that ended up taking a shot at him. And that's what Pulse nightclub is.
Right. Did they ever find out why he did that? I mean, sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there's not, but
yeah,
some of the audience wants to know. So
right. So he, there was a lot of, you tell America to stop the bombings in Syria and that kind of stuff. And he pledged allegiance to ISIS. And so it was all in that, down that path right there. So, because we did have some phone calls with the negotiator and him, and some phone calls between the 911 operator and him, and that it went down that path each time about, telling America to stop the bombings and is it allegiance to ISIS. So, and it's, I don't care. And I want, I'm retired now, so I can say that, but I don't give a shit what his motive is. He shot good people. He shot at us. I killed him. I sleep like a baby with that. That doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
I hope that doesn't come off too harsh, but
no, it's fine. A lot of people want to know the motivation behind, I mean, that's why psychologists go back to Columbine and they reevaluate as to the reasons for it, because if people are just out cold-blooded killing people as sociopaths, it's scary to the community. Yeah, so that's absolutely the only reason I wanted you to share.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about it before, and alleviated some of your symptoms. So yes,
ma'am. There's some narratives out there with some other motivations.
And that's why I wanted you to talk about it too, because you were there.
Right. So the motivation was definitely the whole bombing thing, and I one of the things that's talked about a lot, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but
it's your time. We'll talk all you want.
That was his motivation. What I didn't mention is that Pulse nightclub's a gay nightclub.
Okay.
Right. So, and it happened to be Latin night.
I see.
Police can't really talk about this when it happens. The investigations got to get done, and you know how that goes. So
everybody gets separated, and then they come see me because they couldn't handle being separated. And
So so we're kind of the gag order, which is cool. I mean, we get that the investigations got to kind of happen. We all get it, but in the absence of a story getting out there and the facts getting out there, right? We'll fill the blanks in with what we think is cool
speculation.
Right? Yeah. So some of the narrative is that it was a homophobic,
right?
Gay motivated,
gay.
And it wasn't.
No. Well, and that's one other reason I wanted you to dispute, because you were there, boots on ground. You have. The knowledge and the ability to say, hey, this is what happened and this is why it happened, and kind of dispute a lot of that Reddit or speculation or those solar people. I don't know what they're called on the internet.
They come up with warriors
conclusion.
The conspiracy type people. So I mean, because you can go on YouTube right now and you can find where Pulse nightclub was a hoax. And the conspiracy theorists have got a whole workup of how it just didn't happen. It was made up, and So, so it's and they've got a whole thing. I mean, it's and you listen to it and you're kind of like, oh my god, it's anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of, and the false narratives happen because we weren't really allowed to talk about anything. The FBI doesn't talk about anything.
Right, ever.
Because this was classified as a terrorist event, right? So the FBI came in and took over the whole investigation. So right then, just by saying that, mum was the word. So nothing really got out there. So the media was left to do their own investigating and kind of filling in the blanks with whatever they were finding.
Right.
And it was really easy because of the nightclub being a gay nightclub to kind of just jump to that conclusion as being a motive. So, but it wasn't. That wasn't a motive at all. So,
well, thank you for sharing that, because
yes, ma'am.
I noticed that too. It was very much.
Oh, I just saw it. I didn't know we were going to have a. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. So
it just surprised me. Okay.
Yeah, Christopher is a master deputy. He's retired now, but he was master deputy of Polk County. So he served for 25 years, and he retired, I think, last March. So yeah.
Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate your service, and thank you for saying that. Appreciate it.
Is that the Christopher I know?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that was his last name. I just knew him as Chris.
No,
right.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, he worked for Grady Judd.
Yeah.
You know, the guy there's not enough bullets.
Yeah. I love Grady.
So when I met you,
Mhm,
you were working, I think, at like the State Department or something fancy, because you were still in uniform.
So I retired from Orlando PD back in 2019. My plan, I had a plan, right? Kid is graduating high school, and I need to work for a few more years, and I was ready at 26 years, right? So I knew I only had like another year and a half to go before I was gonna, because 28 is kind of our magic number at OPD, right? So where you start kind of losing money, it doesn't make sense to stay past 28. So
you're like done with the drop by then. And
yeah, right, exactly. So that's our magic number. Job came up at FDLE. I was like, this is great. Do that for the next 4 or 5 years, reassess, right? So went there. I hated it. And good people there just wasn't.
You're like, Broadway can have this. I'm out.
Yeah. And he had since already. He's already at Claremont by this time.
Yeah, because he figured it out too.
Yeah, he did. So it just wasn't for me. And
Right.
Again, they do good work, and they've got great people. They just
they do. Yeah, I know
so,
a couple of them. They're good guys. It's very niche.
It just wasn't for me. So I'll leave it at that. So I went away from that. Started doing. I was already hooked up with a training company out in the Midwest. So I started doing that, and then lo and behold, the state attorney for the Ninth Circuit calls me up here in Florida. So we call them all state attorneys, but it's kind of like a district attorney in other places. She's the district attorney for the Ninth Circuit, which is right in the middle of the state for Orange and Osceola counties. She wanted me to be on her protective detail. So I did that. And when we met, that's what I was doing. I was her protective detail. So
yeah, you showed up in lunch in uniform. I'm like, what?
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you retired? What happened? I was so confused.
And so that's what I was doing. Let me back up a little bit, because it all kind of, so all this stuff kind of happens all at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
So in 2021 is when I hooked up with the state attorney. And 2021, she just started a term. So hooked up with her in 2021. Let's go back, if you don't mind, to Pulse 2016. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
Late that year in November, we just started, because we got requests from all over the world to come brief on the good, bad, and the ugly on what happened at the Pulse nightclub incident.
Right.
These requests are coming in. Captain Canty and Lieutenant Scott Smith at the time,
Mm-hmm.
they were the ones kind of doing it, and so the first one we did was in November. The first one they did was in November of that year. November of that year. 2017 rolls around. They're starting to do the world tour. They're going everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Sri Lanka they're going everywhere.
Right.
The requests are coming in so hot and heavy, though, it's too much. So they grab a few guys, say, hey, you guys can start doing this debrief.
Split off. And
Yeah. But of course, Captain Canty and Scott Smith, they go to Switzerland while they're sending us to Tupelo, Mississippi, right? So
Right.
so that's the difference. We're getting all the stuff in the state, in these small little cities, and they're getting the grandiose stuff, right? So we're just fine. That's what happens. So so 2017, 2018 is kind of happening. I do one in 2019, early 2019. I'm doing a debrief. It was on International Drive. I forget the organization. Forgive me, but I'm just doing my debrief, and we'll get into my mental health journey. But I was already kind of going through my stuff, and I've been going through therapy already, and I'm on the good side of things now. I just at the end of my brief would say, if you got some shit going on in your head, go get some help,
Yes.
And I just kind of would throw it out there. It was a tactical brief I was given. It's a tactical debrief I was given. And I just kind of would say that. There's a guy in the audience, Doug Monda. He heard me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know Doug, so that's
yeah. So he approaches me, and we start talking and talk about a guy that says, what's your story?
Mm-hmm.
So I start telling him the post debrief again, and he's like, no.
Like, you go first.
Wait, I didn't know. I'm like, I start telling the post debrief, and he's like, no.
Your story.
I want to know about you. What's your story? Why'd you say that?
Right.
So I tell him that. He says, you need to start talking about that. And my first thing is, who wants to hear about that shit?
Everyone, sir. Everyone.
Didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't. So he, it's one of those conversations where here's my card and give me your number. I'll reach out to you, and I'm just kind of giving him lip service, thinking, yeah, sure, And that man of his word, reached out and took me under his wing, and next thing I know, I'm talking about my mental health journey. After talking to my therapist to make sure it's okay. And so that's starting to happen. Meanwhile, now I get this, I retire from OPD. I'm doing my master plan. And now I fast forward to 2021. I'm starting to kind of do some more mental health stuff. And I'm working with the state attorney's office, and which is very demanding to be in a private detail for a public figure. So I'm doing that, and I'm starting. Doug is, again, being a man of his word. He put me out there, and I'm on now a world tour for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I am literally taking the state attorney home from whatever detail, running straight to the airport, getting on a flight to fly somewhere, to get there by midnight, to be up, at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, to go present and teach at whatever city I was in for 2 to 4 hours, to get on the plane, to come back, to go to work the next day, to make sure I didn't only miss one day of work. So, I was trying to honor my commitment with state attorney. So, and then in the midst of that happening, and I was working it, I was working it. We meet Joe Ramirez, who's the founder and CEO of Lighthouse Health and Wellness. Now it's actually called Lighthouse for Public Safety. Now they changed the branding a little bit, but meet him. Amazing, just good-hearted dude. He's a tech guy. Nothing to do with law enforcement, nothing to do with first responder world. He's a tech guy who has his heart in the right place. He says, man, why don't cops know where their resources are at? Just that quick, just that simple. Yeah, just that simple. Why don't they know where their resources are at? And he went through the whole spiel with me. I literally sat on the phone in my car. I had just pulled up at home. And, you know how you're afraid to move, when you get, especially in my house, I'm afraid to move because if I move, I'll lose a signal, right? So I'm talking to him, and I'm in my car on the phone, and he just gives it all to me. And I just couldn't help thinking that, man, how that could have helped me before I hit rock bottom, or at those times where I knew I was messing up and just didn't know, because your brain gets twisted, your mind gets twisted, you start thinking stupid shit, and you start thinking that stereotypical stigma stuff, man, as soon as I raise my hand, everybody's gonna see me, and me being
what will I lose for being vulnerable?
Yeah, you work so hard at the reputation. You work so hard at getting to where you got, the Marshals Task Force, the SWAT team, being the godfather of robbery, being what they call me, the voice of reason on the SWAT team, and being an assistant team leader, being a lead trainer for the U.S. Marshals Task Force, one raise of a finger and all that's gone. My family, what's my family going to think? All that's going through my head because, we can jump into the whole culture, the Latin culture, and we do not go seek help. We just not what we do.
Right.
We just don't do it.
No, everything has to stay within the family, which is
the
stigma of mental health.
Absolutely. So, and I am one of the strong people in my family. I'm Raul the SWAT guy. I'm Raul the police officer. I'm Raul the guy that saves his money a little bit. I'm Raul the guy that you can go to for usually some reasonable advice.
Right.
Now I'm Raul. In my mind, was telling me that I'm going to be known as Raul the weak guy that can't handle his shit. So that's what my mind was, and that's what I say about mind getting twisted. So when Joe was speaking, I was just like, man, if I'd have had something, because I just didn't know where anything was. I knew we had a CISM team. Weren't really sure what they did. We didn't have a peer support team. I'll tell you, after the shooting, I've been involved with EAP 3 times in my career for different incidents. And the third one being Pulse Nightclub. And the first 2 were, I think I was okay. They were stereotypical. They're earlier in my career, not a big deal. I don't think. This third one, I'm in my 40s now. I kind of went in there open-minded, but the first minute and a half, told me I pretty much had to be crazy because I went through Pulse. And I wasn't denying it, but how do you know if we haven't spoke? Right? So, I'm basically shut off, and you ask the questions, I'm going to answer them, and make sure I answer them the way you want to hear it, and sign my paper so I can go back to work.
Pretty much, exactly.
So,
and that's the challenge with EAP too. Is unfortunately the pay is not great. A lot of people think that they fill the gap of the copay. They do not. I am part of EAP for Lake County, Orange County, and obviously Claremont. But the reason in Newport News too, because I'm here to serve them, obviously you can't make a fortune off EAP or anything, right. But I also don't want what happened to you happen to others, because a lot of people cannot wrap, people who have never served, who've never put their feet in those boots, they do not comprehend going into a burning building, going into a building where someone is shooting at you. They really can't process that. And rather than being quiet and listening to you to understand how that happens or how you're trained to deal with that, they make judgments. And when they make judgments, what happens is you guys shut down.
Yeah.
And you don't get what you need.
Yeah. And it's a shame because I think it was a missed opportunity. I remember going in there open booked, I'm 40. I've got some years on now. It's not a whole lot you're going to say to me to scare. I wasn't really scared about going in there and just talking. I remember just kind of being cool with this as part of the process and whatever. But like I said, going through the incident and shooting the guy does not bother me in one bit.
Right.
So for that to be told in the first minute and a half that I've got to be affected by pulse, and I'm thinking, no, not really.
Right.
But if you already think that, now I've got to prove to you I'm not.
No, but your challenges had nothing to do with pulse.
Yeah, so pulse was kind of like a little more hay on the camel's back, right? But it wasn't the one that broke me, So
no, because it was justified.
Right. And so there was things that happened at Pulse. I mean, the whole thing is horrific, and the scene is horrific, and there are things that there's some images of Pulse in the scene that I think about, but I'm not just crawling into the corner or just extremely. It's just I have some bad thoughts of every now and then when certain things happen, but I'm okay from Pulse by itself.
Right.
That makes sense, So okay. There was things that and so I'll fast forward real quick that apparently I wasn't the only one that just kind of had a bad experience with EAP, and that got out to the chief, which kudos to him, just being the guy to say, I don't know the answer, but you guys go find it. Tell me what mountain to move.
Right. Which is pretty awesome.
Which is pretty cool. Like, hey, I don't know this shit, but here's my hammer.
Yeah. There's a lot of old school that are just like bury it, rub dirt on it, it'll be fine.
Right.
I think they're realizing now that oh God, our retention rate is 14%.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's bad. So we the word got out. We went to another place, UCF Restores, and they were great. I was pretty much done with docs though. I had a real bad, taste in my mouth. So I'm like, and it's bad because I went in there thinking, hey, you're pretty cool, but I'm good. Don't need you. 6 months later, I hit my rock bottom, and I'm trying to kill myself. So, and it months after that is when my dad finally, called me out and we had our moment with this, I'm ashamed about it, and made peace with it. But, we had our moment. It's because this Vietnam veteran is seeing some stuff in me that he saw in himself.
Right.
40 years prior, so he's, calling out his son and saying something's wrong. So I realized that I need to go get some help. And then I remembered this UCF place that I had been to 6 months, prior. So I go there. I did my
freedom training there. They're good people.
They're good people. And they kind of helped put me on the right track. And, I always say this, and it reminds me a lot about you, Dr. J, but
I know.
So I go in there, and my mindset was, okay, now I'm in there looking for help. This isn't just am I fit for duty type thing. I'm going in for some help. So my mindset was different. So I always picture like this, the competitive chess players that when they make a move and they hit the clock, I'm talking about the chess players that do that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was my mindset was, I went in there and I hit the clock, okay, hour, fix it, get it done. And and she's like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Right,
exactly. And I just like, you can't talk to me that way. You're supposed to be nice, It's just so, and she was like, where is it written that I can't talk to you that way? I'm like, you're supposed to be nice. She said, no.
No, I'm calling you out on your bullshit is what I'm
she called me, because if she had been nice to me, I probably would have ran over, it had probably been my session, right? So,
yes.
So quickly, the tables were turned. Inside about 15 minutes, I was sitting down listening to what was about to happen for the next months, and the other thing was that I thought that I was going to go there and hear a bunch of stuff.
The bullshit you've been hearing.
Well, not so much that, but I kind of thought I was going to be hearing what to do. And she's like, oh, no. There's work to be done. We're going to work together. We're going to, give and take. And I'm like, I just thought that, you magically say a couple of words and then everything's good. I do a little bit, you do a lot, and that would, and no, this is going to be a lot of you doing work, and we're going to be peeling this onion back. And
Yes.
so, very quickly in that first 15 minutes, I she laid down the law and how this was going to work, which is truly, yeah, this is an eye opener, and I
That's my style. I
oh,
love it.
it was great. And come to find out that, I was messed up before Pulse happened.
Oh yeah.
I already was spiraling down, and we loosely tracked it to like a year and a half before, in 2015. Loosely, we kind of just talking about stuff, and kind of when, my behavior and how we think it was around then. It was when a little girl died in my arms.
Yep.
8-year-old.
How old was your son?
And at the time, he would have been 13. So when the little girl died in my arms, he'd been 13.
It's got a lot to do with it, doesn't it?
Oh, I mean, the kids, I think for many, if not all of us, the kids are just, and this is going to sound harsh, but people die all the time, and it's part of life. I get it, but the kids dying,
there's this level of helplessness, and the challenge is there's a dichotomy between a police officer who's meant to serve and train, and just like veterans and just like active duty members, we're trained and trained and trained and trained and trained, and then a situation that makes us feel helpless, it fucks with your head.
Yeah. I mean, given the CPR and well, and it happened differently for me in that. When I got I rolled up on an accident. That's what happened. I was actually going home from a late shift, and I'm in uniform. I rolled up on an accident. That's, I stop, and I could see like 3 or 4 cars down, and an accident happened. So I turn my lights on, go over there, and in the back seat, this little girl, and I feel for her pulse, and she's got a pulse, and I'm calling, hey, you guys got to get here. This is not looking good. And she's I always mess this up. She's doing the agonal breathing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good job.
And so I mean, I know what it is. I can't say the word right. So she's doing that breathing, and she stops. There's no pulse. So now I'm yanking her out, and I'm doing the CPR, and I'm blowing, and I feel her last breath. And so that, the helicopter came, and they're pounding on her chest, and they take her into the helicopter, and I know, we all know, and she dies. So, and that's one of the things. So and this is the way I kind of knew, not I kind of knew, but we figured out that it was something that really bothered me that I never dealt with. I've never, ever talked to any of my family about the bad stuff that's happened throughout my career. And that was the only night, and more especially, like my mom, don't talk to her about this stuff. I don't.
Right.
That night at 5 a.m, I called my mom up and asked her to pray for this little girl.
Oh, no.
And so that was the reason. If it had not been for that, my therapist was like, ding, 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 ding. That was it. That there, it's right there. Trauma. And I'm just like, and there's a Facebook post. My mom posted on Facebook asking for prayers for this little girl. So that, and it was way before. It's a year and a half before Pulse even happened. And I started doing just all the stupid shit, to drinking and just the anger stuff and the depression, it was depression, because I would just kind of shelter. I would just kind of be a hermit, so that was my form of, but that before Pulse even happened,
right?
And I was a great actor, around the guys. And I also felt And I felt comfortable around the guys. That was like kind of my safe spot. So so I ended up working more. To be around. I would put in for that extra. I'd stay stay a little later, come in a little earlier. And if there's any extra, I do it because I work was safe. If that makes any sense. So
yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah. So that's kind of my story. Yeah. So I ended up getting help, and we fast forward. I'm doing the stuff with Doug and the state attorney. And that's we all kind of went off on a tangent there, but state attorney, and I'm doing both these things now. Between getting hooked up with Lighthouse, doing the state attorney thing, and I finally had to tell the state attorney, I just can't do both. I can't do it. It's especially because I'm starting to go out to the West Coast a little bit more to do some of this stuff. So I would, what it is to catch a red eye to get back to Orlando, change in the parking lot in a suit to go straight to work. And I'd be in my office just, I get the state attorney, hope that, God, that there was nothing really going on that day, that she'd just be in the office. So I go in my office and just close the door, put my head in my hands and just hope that nothing would happen for the day. And I'd sit there for 8-10 hours, just kind of get up to go to the bathroom, go get something to eat, and come right back to the office, and nothing would get done. And I'd just be sitting there praying like nothing would happen. So I was like, I got to stop doing this. I'm 50 years old.
No need to burn all the candles.
Yeah, and I'm changing in a parking lot.
Right.
And, I was like, this has got to stop. So
was that your rock bottom? No, I'm just kidding.
No, no. But I tell you, it was just a lot. So now I'm working full time with Lighthouse. When I say full time, I get to work from home and I get to travel around with those guys and push the good work that we're doing at Lighthouse. So that's kind of what I do. And we'll talk a little bit about Survive first if we get a chance to. So yeah.
Well, I want to know what Lighthouse is.
Yeah. So Lighthouse is a wellness app. They're 100% customizable. More importantly, they're 100% confidential. And what the app does, well, what we do at Lighthouse is we go to an agency or fire department, and first responder organization, and we ask that question, what do you have right now in your wellness division, unit, whatever you want to call it, and where are you trying to get to? And with that question, we start saying, okay, now with this tool, with this app, with this, confidential, customizable app, we can help you start building that wellness division by grabbing all the resources that we're going to help you with. And you got to do some work. Like, this is not a magic pill. We don't throw Lighthouse at the agency or department and say, okay, now you're healthy. There's work to be done, right? So we're going to help you and to putting all this stuff in one place. So when the first responder gets to a point like I was, and they're looking for help, they can go right, because this is what we do all day, don't we? Now they can go straight to the phone and find the help that they need, 100% confidential. The agency can never track it. They can never track who. We can track the clicks. And what I mean by that is that helps the agency, the department, to steer the app. One of the examples I've always used, because it's happened kind of early on to us, is that we'll call you every month or 2 months, depending on what deal we make with you, and I'll say, hey, Dorothy, did you see last month you guys had 100 people do the alcohol assessment? It's a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the next question is going to be, I didn't see any AA resources on there.
Right.
Why not? Right. Why? And that's a way that we would steer that app to make, Dorothy, let's get on online here and find out where these AA meetings are at. And get a point person that we can throw on here, because something is going on when we got that many assessments, being done in a month's time. That's a clue. So let's start making sure, and we're going to do a survey. We're going to try to prop up. If you don't have a peer support unit, let's start talking about that. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We've got Virginia, we've got the Carolinas. They have got robust policies in this. We're just going to plug and play. There's no, and then cut and paste it to fit your deal, right? We got peer support functions that within the app that'll let the peer support unit talk to one another and track and document their work. But there's training to be, with that, right? So because I say that, and people think, oh, well, what are they going to say? Peer support. I spoke to Dorothy last night for 3 hours. No, we don't want that, right? We want to put down that I had a phone call last night for 3 hours with a member. But now the captain can come see that there's work being done. More importantly, Dorothy as the peer support team leader becomes aware of a bad run that happened last night involving, whatever the case may be. Now you're calling your peer support A shift people, go do wellness checks on that unit. Right. And, and maybe you start, and I'm making this up, but maybe you're assigning, okay, you're doing wellness checks on these people, and Dorothy, you have Raul, which means you're doing the wellness check, and then in a month or so, you're doing another one, in a month or so, you're doing another one. And I don't know what the time frame is, but you get what I'm saying, to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks, and you can kind of keep up with that through that app, so, and you can make it look like, since Cincinnati Fire's got the app, and they were real big on this training and nutrition stuff. Right. And what I mean by that is they're getting these nagging shoulder injuries. I guess holding the hose is hard. I don't know what it is. That was a joke. That was a joke. It's a joke.
You start singing, "This is my handle, this is my hose."
So
I couldn't help it.
So they do a lot of training room preventative exercise stuff that they push out like every month or so on there that goes towards whatever injuries they're seeing within their fire department. Mm-hmm. Then they didn't want just nutrition, because everybody kind of knows how to eat right. They wanted recipes.
Yeah, because they all cook together.
Our thing is, let's do a survey. Let's find out what the guys want. Let's make sure that that's in the app.
Right.
Because, as leaders, we can put what we think is good, right? And we have to put some of that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's things that need to go in there. You're going to get a suite of information that Lighthouse is going to put in there, and you're going to have an EAP in there. We want to make sure therapists are in there. We want to make sure the peer support unit is in there. We want to make sure family peer support's in there, right? So there's things that are going to be in there, but what else? What do the people want? What do they want to have in it that they can see that we can drive people towards that app? It's a culture.
Yeah, because if they're all about first responder yoga, and they got the first responder yoga guy down the road, but they have 350 officers and only 20 have been to a class.
Right.
Right.
And that's the big, when we go out to these different agencies and departments, one of the things I like to do is, when I go to Chicago, I go to, Joliet, Illinois, one of the things I start doing is I'll just go online and I'll hit, trauma therapy, just to see who's in the area.
Right.
Then when I go to present, I say, hey, who knows where the nearest trauma therapist is here? Culturally competent therapist. Mm-hmm. Dr. Royster. Uh-huh. Yeah, she's down the block here, like 600 feet.
Yeah.
Down the block. Why don't you know? Why don't we know that?
That's a great question.
Why don't we know that?
For news, I was 2 buildings away from the fire department.
But nobody knows.
Buildings.
But nobody, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that you need to come out the academy or go to field training and know exactly where. But man, I should be able to do this and pop up. We have a map view that we've put on most of them now. So now when your therapists are on there, we can list them out, and then we can hit the map view so you can see which one's closest or furthest, depending on what you're, because some guys want to go to a therapist cross town, right? So when nobody knows them, right? So
Right.
but now you can map it. So
is the app for spouses too?
Yes. Yes.
And okay, so I love that it's for police and fire. But what about?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
He said independence.
Yeah. We tell the agencies, the departments, this is for you and your families and retirees.
Because there's nothing out there for retirees. That was a big thing in Tampa, is they were trying to find resources for retirees, and that was a big challenge. So yeah, I'm on the app. I got the honor of being on the app. By the way, we're in Texas now.
Oh, really?
Sharon.
Okay. And so we challenge, well, not challenge, but we encourage also support staff. So records and ID
and HR, they all
so all they can, we encourage that. We don't push it, we encourage it. Some agencies do, some don't. They want some want a little bit of a divide between some of them, which we try to accommodate. So yeah, but we encourage everything you just said as far as family members, retirees, and support staff.
Cool. So what about active military?
We haven't gotten there yet. And
there's a lot of red tape with that, but
the
tech guy might be able to swoop right through.
So it's the red tape and them saying yes.
You can't breathe without DOD's approval. So.
Yeah. So and the military, they have a pretty robust system. I mean, they've got some stuff going on some good stuff going on for them. I mean, we got the big federal guys, and I'm happy to knock on some wood. We've got the marshals, and we got DEA, got ATF, FBI. They move slow, but we're still talking to them. So, they just move so slow. But the vets are just a different nut to crack. They really, really are. And I won't go any further than next. I'm not in those talks.
Well, the VA seems to think that they have all the resources they need.
Yeah.
And it's just keeping the lines of communication open and knowing who to talk to. But I whore Raul out all the time. And he knows it. So, I'm like, when are you coming to Virginia? And he's like, why?
I got no problem. I've been to
Chris.
But you know what? I've been to Virginia. It was right when I was first meeting you, though. So I haven't had to go back since, to kind of do any work, but I hope to get back there soon. So I'm actually going to be in Boston. I forgot when.
Well, I'm back in Florida, so you're good.
Whenever the heck it is, I'm going to Boston. I'm going to Boston sometime this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe have some Boston beer, but yeah. So that's kind of what we do at Lighthouse. We are coming up. We are right at almost 500 agencies around the country. I think we're only missing one state. We're not representing one state, maybe two. I think Alaska and somewhere else. So, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, the word's getting out there.
What about international?
I'm sorry?
What about international?
So we're in talks with that. There's a little bit more red tape according to what Joe was telling me in reference to, and that's IT red tape, but it's doable. It's not doable.
See, he can come visit Canada maybe in August.
Yeah. So we actually we're in talks. We were in talks. I'm not sure if we're still with RCMP. Yeah, RCMP.
Yes.
So so that's a pretty big one right there. they have something in place, but this is, I don't mean to take a whole Lighthouse deal, but the big deal about them is that our price point, because of Joe's belief that first responders should know where their resources are at.
Mhm.
His base model, 100% confidential, 100% customizable, give you the app, you work it, kind of show you how to work it. It's free. It's free. She just doesn't believe that we should be paying for that. To just find out the basic resources that we should know about. Now, when you want some work of like me coming and calling you up every couple of months and us running those numbers, some help to drive people towards the app. When I travel the country and I go to different conferences and I'm able to come back and say, hey, I saw this thing at FDIC while I was in Indianapolis last week. Do you know about this? To bring that kind of stuff to bear, for that costs a little bit of money. So we do charge for that. And the peer support add-on I was telling you about, that costs a little bit of money as well.
Right.
So
you have to pay people for their time.
But I will tell you, our competitors, their base is about 2 times our Cadillac version.
Wow.
All because of what Joe's belief is.
That's amazing.
There's other reasons. And I mean, the big deal is that Joe is a tech guy, so we don't farm our stuff out to go get the tech, and kind of where other people are kind of data driven, they don't have the tech background, so they got to kind of find the tech background to kind of make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's we're other way around. We're getting doctors to come help, because basically, as far as getting we put the therapists on there. We just want them to be able to know we can find them.
Yes,
that to us is more important. Than just having the doc kind of do a film, once a month on the push. It's important, but I want to make sure we can touch the guys that need it right now and put them with Dr. J.
He likes the bat phone to me. Boy, he uses it too. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good. I'm doing this, that. Hold up. I need," and I'm like, oh.
My famous line is, I got a guy.
Yes, you do.
I got a guy. And what I mean by that is, so, and Doc, I've done it a couple times to you. Hey, I got a guy needs some help.
Yep.
That's it. I think where I've been fortunate with what I do, I'm going to bring up Survive First now. Between Lighthouse and Survive First, I've been fortunate to go around the country and get a network of people that are much smarter than I am. And but when people call up, and of course, like Chris Scallon, I mean, it's still one of his words. When people call up in crisis, it's never 2:30 p.m. It's always 2:30 a.m. Right?
Yes.
So once we kind of somewhat figure out what's going on, but they're calling me from Wisconsin, I know somebody.
Right.
Up in Wisconsin, when they call me, needing something out in Lake County or I know somebody.
Right.
And now I'm able to call the doctor and say, hey, I got a guy, need some help.
Yep. That's what he says. I got a guy needs some help. That's
got a guy.
Line.
And then we go into our little process, right? But I want to bring up really quick. I'm not sure how much time we got. Yeah, we're already in hours. I'm sorry,
well, you still did talk about your podcast, so
yeah. It's a really fast. Survive First. Doug Monda founded it. That guy, his story is amazing. One of them guys that tried to kill himself, truly put the gun to his head, squeeze the trigger, just didn't go off. Grace of God. Did his mental health journey and trying to get better, and the process was horrible.
Yep.
Horrible. He said there's got to be a better way. He founded Survive First Foundation. We are a nonprofit that does nothing but take the no out of the process.
Yeah.
And we're all about trying to make sure that the first responder gets the help they need without, and us maybe cutting some of that red tape. And so whatever that means, need a plane ticket, you need to find out about the resources. You're looking for a good, therapist. You're looking for a good treatment center. You're looking for options. You're
A
looking for
hospital with a bed.
a hospital with a, yeah, exactly. So
That's awful, but that's
these are the
another
things that
podcast.
we try to help with at Survive First, and we just had our gala back in April 6th, our second annual gala. It was amazing. We're growing. We're really, really proud of what we're doing. We're getting known around the country, so I wanted to bring them up. And lastly, Trauma Behind the Badge. We are a podcast. We come on 2 to 3 times a month with different guests from around the country. I can say around the world now. And we just have those tough conversations that you have in the back parking lot of an agency, right? So it's 4
I've been
guys.
on that, and I will tell you that they are rough.
We call us of the shit show because the conversation go where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
But we don't. There's like here. There's no rules. Just kind of let it fly.
They come at you too, so they
and we
know
come
whether
at
you've been
we
to it or not.
challenge. We challenge the docs. We go hard at the guys that come on. And because we want to talk about those things we don't talk about.
Yes.
So it's a tough conversation. And it's 4 first responders. Excuse me, 5 first responders on there. We're from around the country. All different experiences, and for me, selfishly, I get to sit and listen to people that I can relate to. And I just I get to sit there and listen. And that is just, it's amazing for me because usually I pick a nugget up and I'm like, ooh, that sounds good.
Where can your podcast be found?
It's on Spotify, Facebook, and we're getting ready to be on YouTube. So I got to figure that one out. We just got the channels.
Yeah, Jordan's got that handled. So
hook up with me after, and
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'll grease your wheel, you grease mine. And
yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
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 So anything with this journey and all that you've overcome, because you are, like, when I met you, you still had a little struggle in you. So we did a little bit of work, but you are just thriving now.
I'm trying.
Most people aren't on fire like you after 30 years of working and service and dedication, and you keep going. What is your nugget? What is your what is your mic drop? Because I know you got one.
Yeah. Man, it's a good question. I almost died, and people didn't know. I was the biggest actor. Nobody knew the struggle I was going through. And it wasn't until I started doing therapy and we got to the point where we started talking about my son.
Yep.
And having that conversation with my son. And when I finally got to that point, when I go talk to my son, who was that time, he's now 16, going on 17. And I said, hey, this is, Dad went through this, and Dad was going to do this and this. And for my son to sit there and look at me and say, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
That floored me.
Why? You thought your mask was not as transparent as it?
I was the greatest. I was Denzel Washington in my eyes.
In your eyes, yes.
Yeah, and for me, I was Denzel Washington. I had it all. Exterior wise, I had it all taken care of, even though I knew I was a mess inside, right? So for him to tell me that, and so that's what that really threw me again for a pretty big loop. And fast forward a little bit and kind of meeting Doug and seeing that there were others and that are willing to talk about it as openly as he did, man, that lit a passion in me. And I was lucky that, man, I can get it. Man, I can talk. I'm sorry.
Don't be
I was
sorry.
lucky.
This is your podcast. I want you to share for any audience that hears this, who
Right.
is serving their community, serving their country, because you did both.
Yes, ma'am.
What does it look like for them to have that kind of bravery to step forward and say, I got to fix this shit?
And that's got to be number one. And then it's about getting to the, number one is you got to get the help. Let me back up and say this, that I tell everybody, man, if I was to walk outside right now and somebody goes to whipping my ass, first I better pack a lunch. But if they come to whipping my ass and they're trying,
I must say, you're a big dude. Nobody's gonna fuck with you.
They're coming to if they're whipping my and I go to screaming for help, and I ask every first responder, that hears this. If I go screaming for help, since somebody's whipping my ass, every first responder I know would come running.
Yes.
To help me.
Mm-hmm. Without hesitation, too.
Without hesitation. So if you see your brother and sister screaming for help because of something that's going on in their head, there's no difference. You come running.
That.
You come running, right?
Thank
and then the second example I give is, if you go outside and somebody goes whipping your ass and they're trying to kill you, you'd be relentless in the fight that you would have to that person trying to hurt you. You'd be relentless about it, and you'd be screaming for help.
Right.
I promise you, if you scream for help, we would come running. If you're screaming for help up here, we'll come running for you. So be relentless about that. The same way you would be for anything else. Right? So, in reference to the speaking, I was just going to say that really fast, that get yourself right first. I was really lucky that I got myself better, just the natural time and things. I got myself better before I got into, reaching out and helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people now, and I commend every person that wants to give back. It's absolutely, if you can do it, that's great. But get better and make sure you're better before you kind of step into the game of
helping others heal.
Helping others heal.
Yeah, I get a lot of people who are like, I'm broken. I'm like, you're not broke. You're just curved.
Right.
It's all good. Like, you're not broken. I don't like that, because broken to me means that there's no reparation that can be done.
Yeah.
Curved, you can fix curved.
Yeah.
And you can look like brand new again.
Yeah.
But now you've got all the skills and the lessons that go with it.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
What I want to talk about real quick, because I know we'll talk your ear off because we're just fascinated. But I want to talk real quick about your process, because a lot of people talk about how bad off they were. Mm-hmm. Then they talk about getting help. And then they talk about being better and then propelling that forward to help others, because you are in your right mind now. Mm-hmm. But nobody talks about the process of doing the work.
Yeah. For me, it was a lot of, I had to say a lot of shit out loud.
Yes. So how is that overcoming that shame and guilt and the vulnerability? Because for someone as proud as you, that had to be like probably one of the hardest things you've ever done.
So, there's a lot in that. That's a huge one, right? So, you got the cultural component, me being a Latin person, and we already have that machismo in us, so that's there. I'm just going to kind of put that as an overview of everything.
That's why you were talking about cultural competency, because you need therapists who understand.
Yeah, that understand that. Right.
Background.
And then, I had a huge sense of a lack of self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
That let me back that up. I think I had a lack of self-worth that grew throughout my career that also made me work harder, if that makes sense. So,
well, yeah. I mean, you stand in front, you take that bullet. You're not worried about the value of you. You're worried about who you can save.
Right. And so, with that came a whole bunch of, a bunch of bad stuff. And I just had to say a lot of stuff out loud. I had to recognize that I am worth the shit. I had to stop caring about what people think.
Yes.
That was, and that's, I just said it easy, but that's not easy. Truly stop giving a shit about what people think,
mm-hmm.
and focusing on myself and that I'm worth it and that I'm going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Because, I was pretty comfortable that I was going to die at the job. I was real comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where I started trying to make it happen.
Right.
And because I just didn't think I was, the world would be okay. Good Lord to do me a solid, just let that bullet come and canoe my head. So I was cool.
My family's taken care of. Everything's taken care of. Good. I die a hero. I'm good.
I wouldn't even worry about dying a hero part.
Well, I mean, you would though. I'm saying I know you're not worried about it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that wasn't that little bit wasn't in my thought process in reference to I just wanted to, I was cool with just letting it happen. So so saying that while that thought process was in my head, saying it out loud was big.
Mm-hmm.
Actually saying, because that's a sin.
Right.
I'm trying to get myself killed. It's a sin. I'm trying to die. In my heart, it's a sin. And not that I'm a huge, church going guy, but I believe in God, and I do have faith, and I do know, I have my own sense of, what the rules are. So I had to do a lot of talk therapy, and now I the big deal for me was getting the skills to identify when I'm in the toilet. Mm-hmm. and what to do to get out of the toilet, right. And so I don't have to be circling the actual drain of the toilet. I can kind of be on the top and kind of like, it's starting to stink a little bit, and I can get myself out of the toilet now a little bit. I tell people, like, this is not it's not a cure and you're good. For me, at least, I don't know anybody that it is. I don't think you just cure it and never. I do tune-ups, a couple times a year. That's what I call them. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's what we call them too.
Yeah, I do a tune a couple times a year. Depending on how, and it can fall weird, but you know what I'm getting at.
Plus, I mean, we get so involved in life, we forget our skills.
And that's another thing.
Hell, I get a tune-up. I got a therapist. Are you kidding?
You just got to get it, and you got to, and because you kind of forget.
Yeah.
Some of the.
And if something doesn't come up, and then you're like, shit, I know this happened before. What did I do last time?
Yeah,
I don't know.
The big deal for me is exactly what the big deal for me is. I'm feeling like shit, and I'm feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And I know my self affirmations. I know I've got a couple things of my go-tos, but it's not working. I feel like shit. It's day number 4, right? And I'm still feeling like shit. So I have to make a phone call.
Yep.
Because this, I know where this path leads, right? So, so for me, it was just talk stuff. I didn't, and I say this, not, this is no disrespect. It just, to me, it's funny, but I didn't do any of the voodoo. I call it EMDR trip, so I didn't do any of the voodoo. I don't think I needed it. I don't know.
He was healthy when I met him, and he had a little bit.
Yeah.
of stuff that was bugging him. So I just kind of ran him through it so that he knew.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time before people refer me, because they trust Raul with their life. And they're not going to come see me if Raul doesn't trust me.
Right.
So, he understands the protocol. But yeah, he talked through all his stuff.
Yeah, and it worked for me. But I had to, it's not just, you don't just go there and say it. You got to say it and live it. You got to say it, believe it. You got to really, and you got to really be honest about it. You got to open up and realize what. And that sometimes people can't do that. I was pretty lucky to be able to. Again, I was a little older.
And you were ready.
I was absolutely.
The chief didn't make you go to therapy. No. So that I will say about officers is there's a huge difference in the level of momentum to heal with someone who is ready and willing and someone who is made to be there. Vet court guys, good Lord, they don't want to be there at all.
No.
And they'll make every excuse. I'm fine. You're going to jail. You're not fine.
All right. Yeah, I was ready to get some help, and I definitely. It's truly my opinion. I think that first session was huge. That's why I bring that up so much, because that first
session called you out,
and it laid that foundation that we're gonna be tight, and we're talking about everything from how long I taking a shit to everything else in the middle, right? So up and through Pulse and afterwards, and things that happen after Pulse that really the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Right. So, you had a lot going on after that.
Yeah. So and we're gonna talk about everything in the middle. And this is what's gonna happen here. And because of the way she broke it down, I was kind of like, okay.
Well, she kind of mama beared you.
Well, and I just remember thinking, I remember thinking, well, I'm going to let you have it. You're going to have all of it. And I'm going to and damn it if she didn't take all of it.
Yep.
And as much as I was given, she knew how to get a little more out of me. We
dig a little deeper, man. There's something left there. We find the cement.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody's just tuning in right now, we're talking about therapy.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Yes. We are very focused here. Wow. Yes, hour and a half in. See, this is just fascinating.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're talking about therapy. We're not talking about other things.
Yeah. So it's she did a great job just kind of knowing how to.
I love hearing that, because I do hear, I've tried therapy. I've tried talk therapy. It didn't work for me. Okay, well, tell me about the session.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say anything. She talked the whole time. And I'm like, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. I think that first session was such a big icebreaker. I don't, we had, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we had a couple of not so good sessions, right? But I kind of took that as anything, I mean, you have a bad one, but overall,
she probably had a bad week, or maybe
the
direction she wanted to go. But
I mean that both ways. Great. Like we would go down a tangent sometimes, and kind of like, okay, well that, but this is kind of the path we went down, or I was.
Not every session is productive.
Yeah, right. just kind of, but I didn't take. We had a whole lot more productive than we did not productive,
right.
and we had already set the foundation. The first few were extremely, just extremely useful, and so that foundation was set. I was, I'm kind of locked in with her now. So even when we had a bad one here and there, it was not swaying me from this shit is helping me.
Awesome. So, well, thank you for sharing. And, I know that there's a lot of officers that kind of teeter on, I'm going to get help, but you hear so many horror stories about therapy. And I just wanted you to be real and share your journey, because your journey was successful.
I hope. I'm knocking on wood, and I'm still a work in progress.
But you're here. You ain't
all
checked out,
are.
so
Yes,
obviously it's doing something for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess again, I got good people around me. Good support system. My
And I answer
family
my
is.
phone, Raul, at 3 a.m.
Yes, ma'am. I know you do.
You know.
I'm really lucky to have what I have around me. I don't take it for granted. Between my dad, my mom, my sister, and my brother-in-law, Sharon, my girlfriend, my son, who was another rock. I mean, that guy, 22 years old. I swear he's been here before. He just got that old soul in him, So, and just really, really good friends around the country. But the name Doug, Chris, and Richie, just amazing guys from Trauma Behind the Badge, and I can go on and on. I'm really, really fortunate to have who I have around me.
I did invite Chris to be on the podcast as well, because that guy is a rock star.
He is a guy. And I need to talk to. I'm gonna try to get hooked up with Richie Creamer as well. He's another Norfolk guy. Came right. Yeah. So anyway, I'll get.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, somebody in San Antonio reached out to me asking me about Rich Creamer.
Oh, okay. He's
so
good.
We'll
dude.
Talk.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
For sure. Yes, ma'am. So.
Yeah, Chris is amazing. He crashed my trip training in Norfolk. He just popped in and he's like, "Let me read this." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And I said, "I'm Dr. Reister." And he goes, "Oh, ma'am, I'm Chris."
Yeah, I remember facilitating that. I remember getting you guys together on that one. I didn't know he was going to do it like that, but yeah.
I had no idea who he is when he walked in. He did not introduce himself. I'm like, "All right, dude."
That's not what we do.
I knew who he was after he said, "I'm Chris."
Right.
But walking in, sitting down, grabbing a script, I'm like, "What? Who are you?"
Right. So when we do a Trauma Behind the Badge and Survive First, we will not refer somebody we haven't touched, felt,
right,
vetted ourselves, or it's got to be somebody that we absolutely trust that says, "Hey, yeah, you're good with that one over there." If we haven't done that, then we just don't. We just can't. We won't, because this industry, you've got one shot.
Yep, everything is lies on trust.
Yeah. One shot. So when you lose that credibility, it's gone with that person, and it's real. I mean, I don't want to say it's forever gone, but it's really tough to get it back. And so we're just really, really, we're kind of anal about that. We just won't. We won't do it. So
what does the future hold for you, sir? And then we'll let you.
Just still plugging along with Lighthouse and Survive First. We got some huge things in line, both organizations. I'm excited for it. Just and Trauma Behind the Badge, we're expanding that again to YouTube, like I was saying, and we got some exciting guests coming up this year. We're really excited about. That's really.
I added to that list.
I'm sorry.
They said I added to that list. There's a retired lieutenant in Tampa I really want you to connect to.
Okay.
Because she's all about the resources.
Very cool.
That's what she does. Okay. So.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely. Sounds good. So, and that's it. I mean, just kind of doing the good work with both those organizations, and extremely proud of the work that we're doing. So, I can't say enough about what we do, and hopefully we're changing some lives here and there. Every now and then I think the good Lord sends me a little wake me up, or a little reminder that we're doing right. We're doing good work, and in the form of a text that says, thank you.
Yes.
That just reinvigorates me for another 6 months, and another those small. I think the good Lord knows when I need it, and gives me a little something, and it keeps me going. So yeah.
Well, thank you for all you do, and that you're an amazing human being, and I'm so glad that you're at the forefront of this, because it's definitely needed.
Thank you, man. You know what, too? I'm not sure if you can see that. behind me there. Remember that the you made this my Mickey. Hold on for a second.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Hold on.
It's a blanket I crocheted. I forgot about that. Yeah. That is so awesome. I forgot about that. That's amazing. You're so funny.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's crocheting right now, and as we're doing.
I'm always crocheting.
Yeah. She made that for me. I never forget that. It is right there. It's always with me. Always with.
That is so awesome.
That's the angry Mickey. Let me see if I can put it up there.
Yes.
I was gonna say it looks like the Buccaneers thing.
No, it's an angry Mickey, and
he's
like,
there.
I don't know about the. Would you say I don't know about
Love
the
it.
copyright, but and I'm like, don't worry about it because the stitches are so expanded. There's no issue, and he's like, oh, okay.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Well, hey, thanks you guys for having me on. I can't tell you enough. I appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the one thing that most people don't know about you?
Oh, wow.
I've known it for years. I already know.
One thing they don't know about me. That's a good question. I'm an open book. My nickname, and you probably is it on there? Ooh, and I just showed it, and nobody probably picked it up. My nickname. I have a unique nickname that was given to me at birth. Believe it or not.
Ooh.
And has stuck with me for my whole life. And one of the guys happened to go bowling. One of the SWAT guys happened to go bowling one day, and my parents, they probably bowled for 50 years. They happened to be bowling. My dad recognized the SWAT guy. I bring my dad everywhere with me. Mm-hmm. He recognizes the SWAT guy. The SWAT guys are just great. They recognize, so they talking, and my mom says, "Oh, nickname does this," and they were like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Oh no, we heard." And so the SWAT guys caught on to it, so that became my nickname on SWAT. I don't give it up. That's something you have to kind of.
Well, you can't bring it up and then not say it.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I do.
Well, that's why he's going to stay on the show afterward. We'll find out.
Yeah, you got to watch the show if you want to find out. Now I'm turning the cup this way so you can't see it. It was on the cup. It's on the cup.
I'll have to go back and
There you go.
There you go. A little something right there. A little nugget.
Well, thank you, Raul. We
Thank you,
appreciate you here. Stay safe, everybody.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that.
It's
mental health journey. I do appreciate that, especially for all the men out there that are listening to this, whether they're been in uniform or not, because I know that that is needed. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye bye.